So that's the weirdest thing. But there's a lot of, you hear a lot of stories. There's a lot of weird things in Savannah. There's like the X spot, which is a weird thing. You've been onto that before plenty of times, I'm sure.
Have it? No.
The X spot in Savannah, you don't know what that is? That's one of the weird things they talk about. Is when it's downtown on River Street. It's downtown on River Street in front.
I don't think I've been. No. I want to hear it now.
Well, if you go, and it worked. I mean, last time I did this when I was like 10 years ago, like at 30, and it still worked. But downtown on River Street, there's, it's the east side of the Hyatt,
Mm-hmm.
And where they have like the little, they have like the little playground things on the Riverwalk and stuff like that.
Yep.
They had like almost like tiny little squares on the Riverwalk. And at a certain point, they have those little squares, and then at a certain point it runs out and just turns into the lawn. Right? It was last time. I don't know. They've been building so much.
They built a lot onto it now, yeah.
But it turned into the lawn, which is where they used to put the stage. That's where the Waving Girl is down there. Like, But if you go to that last one, that last little square, the bricks are in this X pattern. And if you go there and talk, I don't know, it's probably like a site, like acoustical thing with the bricks. If you go there, stand straight up and look out of the ocean and talk, you can hear your voice like reverberate in your head. Like it's almost like you're doing it like in a echo chamber or something. It's
I never heard that. I'd totally try that.
Yeah, try that. It happens. I've done it. I've done it like 20 times.
If they haven't torn it down, they've developed a lot.
And it's not a ghost thing. It's always, but it adds. And mostly like this weird acoustical thing with the thing. But it's always good to add that as a ghost thing. Like, well, they used to have.
You'll hear you. If you speak, you'll hear it.
Yeah, Savannah's just full of trash. Like I said, they have the Waving Girl stuff. It's a thing built on like people waiting for their dead husbands to return and stuff. It's like, it's very gothic and romantic and all that stuff built into.
I don't have a good Savannah ghost story. I do have. We went out to make a movie out before we came to Savannah, like right before we moved to Savannah, which is out in Tate, Georgia, which is a big, I guess it's a marble quarry out there. That's what they're known for.
Georgia,
and
not Ebenezer, wherever.
Yeah, Elberton's where they got the granite,
yeah.
And then the Tate's where you get your marble from. But there's a house out there that's an old manor house, and at that time, they were renting. You could rent a room in the manor house to stay, or they had several cabanas outside that you could rent and stay in. Right. It was like a little bed and breakfast kind of setup. We went out there to shoot a terrible B movie. Like we went out. I mean, we really shot in 4 days, and it never was finished or released. But it was a supposedly haunted house, so there was all kinds of different stories. I remember the cabin that we were staying in, like the first night that we were there, like as soon as we got there, we're like, this place is weird. Let's do horror movie rules right away. Like let's make sure we keep a buddy system here. Right. Like, nobody wanders off on, so this place seems weird.
Come here, stay here. Yeah.
And we had done that. Like me and my buddy Jason were there, and we were in a cabin together, and we had brought out another buddy of ours to help do sound. Mm-hmm. And he was staying in the cabin with one of the people we didn't know, like one of the actors. We hadn't met them yet. And we were like, well, this cabana is big enough for 3 people. We could all just stay here. But through the night, like the other guy came, like, could I stay here too? Because it's kind of creepy. So like all 4 of us stayed in one cabin together because it was just kind of creepy. And there was all kinds of things. Like the lights would come on and off, and the radio would come on and off, and the TV and stuff. And I remember the next morning when we went into the house proper, was when we first met the people that worked there, and we're like, yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff going on in our room. And they're like, well, what room are you in? And we were like, we're in cabin number 3. And they all started laughing. And we're like, oh, cabin number 3. Yeah, just no, just like a knowing sort of laughter. It's like, oh yeah, cabin number 3 is haunted as hell. And like a guy killed himself in that cabin. So there's all kinds of weird stuff that always happens. And aside from electrical issues, we never experienced anything in the cabin itself that made us think that it was actually haunted. There were things that would go on with the electrics while we were there, but that was the extent of it. But in the house itself, there were a number of ghosts that were rumored to be there, and they had names. They were like,
oh god, that's creepy.
If your stuff goes missing, it's probably Flora, because Flora likes to move things around.
Yeah.
And in this room, in the study, is where the colonel, or what, I can't remember. I think it was a colonel who used to own the house. He's known to be in the study, and the study happened to be the place where we had all of our electrics plugged in, where we'd recharge our batteries and stuff.
Right.
So we were shooting there one day, and the bottom floor, the basement level, had been cleared out, and a British pub had been moved like piece by piece over to the manor house and reconstructed down in the bottom. So there was a pub there, and we're shooting in the pub. But my job was kind of like AD or whatever on the project. So if we were getting low on any of the batteries, my job would be to go grab another and swap them out. But the other thing that was downstairs was the full-service kitchen, and it looked like the kitchen from The Shining. It was this gigantic, like, full industrial kitchen, and we were just like, oh man, this place is creepy as hell. And the servant stairs came up from the kitchen, so there's a tiny little stairway that went up to the house proper from there. So the whole bit was just sort of like The Shining. It was just basically creepy all around. And I remember coming through that kitchen, it was so big you could get lost in it. It was like getting turned around trying to find my way out.
Especially in China, it's like, what is this? Even that hotel, it's like, and what event would this whole be filled with like 500
When would you ever
people?
have to have this?
Yeah. Like
and that's what it was like us, because we were the only ones there. It was so Scooby-Doo, because the only other person that was staying there was a guy who was thinking about buying it. So I'm going to get the batteries charged, and I get lost in the giant kitchen. So now I'm getting freaked out and turned around, and I finally get to the servants' quarters, the servants' stairs, and I'm going up the stairs. And as I'm going up the stairs, I am certain that I hear footsteps behind me walking up the stairs, and I was like, oh god, and I'm like, now I'm getting really freaked out, and I run out, and I just sort of burst out onto the main floor of the manor, and that means I'm like on the main hallway that goes all the way down the house. So on the far left end is the study, and on the far right end is the rest of the house, I guess, where the dining halls are at that point. And so I bust out of there to get away from the footsteps that I hear behind me, and to my right, in my periphery, I see like an apparition, like this shimmering figure at the end of the hall, and I turned to look really quick to see what it was, and when I turned, I didn't see anything, but as soon as I turned to look, the front door of the house on the opposite of the hall slammed shut. And that was where the study was, and that was where I had to go to put the batteries and stuff in. And like, oh my god, shit. And it was like, it's just a series of things that were all individually perfectly explainable, but together just created this really creepy, like, oh god, now I gotta go to the Colonel's Ghost and swap my batteries.
Well, that's what's all this. It's funny about that stuff. I mean, I overacted, but I still freak myself out now. I mean, it's like I said, it depends how tired I am. If I'm pretty tired, I'm like, no, I don't care. Cats, whatever. It's like
cats. I can go to sleep. Yeah, I've been there.
Well, I mean, yeah, because I can still freak myself out about alien stuff too. I just do. Like, for some reason, when I was a kid, it was like almost, it was one where like, well, scientifically, they're the one that could be just, like, legitimately possible with just explaining. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, ghosts and stuff, we have to work around. Like, what does that mean? What is it? You know, there, it's like, well, there could be other things on other planets. Just period. So it's like
with a lot of things, because as we understand them, that could exist.
Yeah, just
we don't have to redefine everything we believe. I
mean, they could have spaceships too, and that's how we just explained it.
Yeah,
it's like
there it is.
But then I think Communion freaked me out because they just said, like, well, they came with you when I was a kid, and they come with you your whole life. And so when I was like 8 years old, like, what my whole life?
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then they came to me, I was pregnant, and they came by my bed and said, no, we'll come to see your daughter. Just like your whole family. I was like, what the? That just seemed like a nightmare to me. Like just some sort of like, I mean, legitimately like a nightmare.
It's not a great movie, but if you ever see a movie called Ejecta, It's by Tony Burgess, who did the Pontypool, which is a great movie.
Oh, I love Pontypool.
But I had high hopes for Ejecta, and it's not as good, but it does have some moments, and it's about that, where a guy who is sort of like visited by aliens his entire life.
Oh, really? Yeah, I just
sort
saw.
of reminds me of that.
What movie did I see that guy, the Pontypool guy, in? It was in some show. What was that?
Stephen McHattie, he's great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's in something that I watched, and I was like, it reminds me of Pontypool. I remember.
That's such a good movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So I see nowadays it's just I don't know. But I still love all this stuff. I don't know. Yeah, I went back and watched Communion like recently, more like not the whole movie, but let me just see clips of it. What was I saying? Because they had like the little blue guys and all stuff. And you watch it now, it looks ridiculous.
I need to watch it. I haven't seen it in like.
I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched clips of it on YouTube, and I was like, oh, because I was like, part of me was like actually nervous and felt like, oh, like my heart's palpitating a little bit. I want to watch this again because it really traumatized me. That movie was like freaked me the hell out.
My chicken!